Before you marry an INFJ, there are some deeply important truths you must understand, truths that are not always obvious on the surface. Loving an INFJ is a beautiful, transformative experience, but it is also a journey that requires emotional depth, patience, awareness, and a willingness to grow. If you want to truly thrive with INFJs, you must understand the world they live in, the way they love, and the things that can either strengthen or break the bond you're hoping to build. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ Purpose Compass today. The link is in the description of this video. One of the most vital things you must know is that INFJs love intensely, quietly, and deliberately. They do not give their heart easily, and when they do, it is after deep reflection and trust building. Their love is not impulsive or superficial. It is spiritual, intuitive, and rooted in emotional connection. An INFJ will observe you long before they commit to you, not because they are suspicious, but because they want to know your soul. They want to understand whether your values align with theirs, whether your intentions are genuine, and whether you're someone they can build a meaningful life with. To marry an INFJ requires a level of authenticity that cannot be faked. They can sense dishonesty, manipulation, and insincerity, often before you even realize you're showing it. They need transparency, depth, and emotional honesty from their partner, not because they are demanding, but because anything less makes them feel unsafe and misunderstood. You must also understand that INFJs live internally more than externally. Their inner world is rich, complex, imaginative, and constantly processing the emotions, patterns, and intentions of the people around them. They will often know what you feel before you fully express it. They will pick up subtle shifts in your tone, your mood, or your behavior, and they will try to understand what's beneath the surface. This makes them incredibly empathetic partners, but it also means they can become overwhelmed by emotional clutter. They need a partner who communicates openly, who doesn't hide or suppress emotions, and who doesn't punish them for being sensitive to things others overlook. Silence, emotional withdrawal, or passive-aggressive behaviors from a spouse can deeply wound an INFJ because they will internalize it as something they caused or something wrong within themselves. Another essential truth you must grasp is that INFJs need space, even when they adore you. This is often misunderstood because INFJs are naturally warm, loyal, and affectionate. But they are also deeply introverted, and their emotional and mental batteries drain faster than you might expect. They need quiet time to think, to breathe, to reconnect with themselves, and to preserve the mental clarity that makes them who they are. When overwhelmed, they retreat, not as rejection, but as renewal. A partner who takes their need for solitude personally will create unnecessary tension in the relationship. The spouse who thrives with an INFJ is the one who respects their quietness, supports their personal space, and trusts that their temporary withdrawal is not a sign of fading love. In fact, it is precisely because they value you so much that they recharge themselves, so they can be fully present again. Before you marry an INFJ, you must also understand how deeply loyal they are, and how deeply betrayal affects them. INFJs are all-or-nothing people when it comes to emotional commitment. When they choose you completely. They invest fully, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and in every other meaningful way. But this loyalty makes them fragile in the face of deception, inconsistency, or broken trust. Betrayal for an INFJ is not just a mistake. It feels like the collapse of everything they believed in. Once trust is broken, rebuilding it is extremely difficult, sometimes impossible. They need a partner who is stable, dependable, and emotionally consistent. They need someone whose actions align with their words, whose loyalty is unwavering, and who understands the sacredness of emotional intimacy. You must also know that INFJs carry emotional depth that can sometimes be misunderstood as complexity or moodiness. They feel deeply, they think deeply, and they experience life in layers that most people never reach. Their emotional world is as intense as it is private. They may struggle to express their needs clearly because they assume their partner feels the same depth they feel. They may expect intuitive understanding, and if they don't receive it, they may retreat further inward. A loving spouse must be patient, willing to gently draw them out, and able to create a safe environment where the INFJ can express their fears, hopes, ideas, and emotional truths without judgment. INFJs also thrive in relationships with partners who value meaningful conversations. Empty chatter drains them. Surface-level interactions bore them. They crave a partner who can discuss ideas, dreams, purpose, and personal growth. They connect spiritually through conversations that explore the deeper aspects of life, and they often fall in love with the mind as much as the heart. Marrying an INFJ means embracing their intellectual needs, their curiosity, and their hunger for emotional and philosophical depth. It's also essential to understand the INFJ's mission-oriented nature. INFJs often feel called towards something, whether it's a purpose, a cause, a creative vision, or a desire to impact lives. They cannot survive in a marriage where they feel stagnant or unsupported. They need a partner who encourages their dreams, believes in their abilities, and understands that their purpose is part of who they are. If you try to box them in, suppress their passions, or limit their growth, they will wither emotionally. A thriving INFJ marriage is one in which both partners grow together, dream together, and support each other's callings. Another important reality is that INFJs avoid conflict, not because they are weak, but because they feel everything so intensely that conflict becomes physically and emotionally draining for them. However, they are not afraid to address issues when necessary. In fact, when something truly matters, an INFJ can be startlingly direct and firm. Their calm exterior hides a core of strength and conviction that can surprise even their spouse. The key is communication that is calm, respectful, and honest. Harsh words, uncontrolled anger, or emotional chaos can shut them down quickly. If conflict must happen, it should be approached with care and understanding, not aggression. Another beautiful thing you must know before marrying an INFJ is that they love in ways that transform you. They see the best in you, often before you see it in yourself. They nurture your potential, support your growth, and care for your emotional well-being in ways that feel almost intuitive. Their love is nurturing, inspiring, protective, and deeply unconditional, but it must be reciprocated with maturity and emotional presence. They cannot thrive with a partner who remains on the surface, who refuses to grow, who avoids vulnerability, or who treats their depth as an inconvenience. INFJs have a unique relationship with emotional energy. INFJs absorb the emotional atmosphere around them like a sponge, even when they're not consciously trying to. This means the emotional tone you bring into the relationship matters far more than you realize. If you come home carrying unresolved anger, bitterness, or chaotic frustration, an INFJ will feel it deeply, often to the point of stress or emotional exhaustion. But when you bring peace, warmth, and emotional openness, they blossom almost instantly. They thrive in environments where emotional safety is prioritized, where communication is gentle and clear, and where both partners show responsibility for their emotional states. An INFJ spouse needs someone who can regulate their feelings maturely and who understands that emotional care is part of the relationship's foundation. You must also know that INFJs are more intuitive than logical in their decision-making, and this shows up strongly in marriage. They may not always explain why they feel something is off or why they believe a certain choice is better. They just know. When an INFJ expresses a strong instinct about someone or something, it almost always comes from deeper insight rather than guesswork. Their intuition is a major part of who they are, and dismissing it can make them feel invalidated or misunderstood. Marrying an INFJ means respecting their intuitive voice, even when you don't fully understand it, and learning to see the world through their lens of patterns, insights, and quiet knowing. INFJs also need a partner who understands the complexity of their emotional vulnerability. They appear strong, composed, and independent, but inside they are far more sensitive than they show. They rarely ask for help, not because they don't need it, but because they carry an inner fear of burdening people or being misunderstood. When an INFJ trusts you enough to express their fears, insecurities, or emotional wounds, this is not a small moment. It is a profound act of love. A spouse who dismisses their vulnerability or treats it lightly can wound them more deeply than they realize. They need reassurance, emotional presence, and gentle validation, not criticism or coldness. You should also understand the INFJ's pattern of emotional burnout, because they give so much, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They often reach a point where their emotional energy runs dry. When this happens, they may become distant, quiet, or withdrawn. This is not rejection and not a shift in love. It is self-preservation. INFJs need rest from emotional intensity the way others need rest from physical exertion. A spouse who interprets this withdrawal as lack of affection will create tension where none is needed. The way to love an INFJ through burnout is through patience, calmness, and gentle support, giving them the space they need without feeling threatened by it. Another thing you must know is that they are extremely idealistic about relationships. They don't enter marriage with a half-hearted attitude. They have an inner vision of how love should feel. Emotionally rich, spiritually deep, mutually supportive, and growth-oriented. When reality doesn't match the ideal immediately, they don't give up, but they do become internally discouraged. They begin to question whether the relationship is aligned with their dreams, their values, and their emotional needs. They need a spouse who understands that their idealism is not a burden, but a sign of how seriously they take love. If you can meet them with effort, honesty, and a willingness to grow together, you become someone they cherish forever. INFJs are also incredibly protective of the people they love. When they choose you, they instinctively become guardians of your emotional well-being. They will defend you, encourage you, pray for you, worry about you, and stand by you even when you doubt yourself. Their protective nature is one of their greatest gifts, but it also means they expect the same sense of loyalty and devotion in return. They need to know that while they protect your heart, you are also protecting theirs. They need to feel emotionally safe with you, knowing that you are on their side, even in difficult moments. Another vital thing to understand is the INFJ's relationship with honesty. They value honesty in a way that goes far beyond simple truth-telling. To them, honesty includes emotional transparency, genuine intention, and consistent alignment between words and actions. They can sense emotional dishonesty when you say you're fine but you're not, when you hide motives, when you force a smile while carrying resentment. These emotional inconsistencies feel like cracks in the foundation of the relationship. The partner who can speak truth with kindness, admit mistakes, express needs, and be upfront about feelings will create a bond with an INFJ that grows stronger with time. INFJs also require intellectual and emotional stimulation to feel truly alive in a marriage. They cannot thrive in a relationship where growth stops or where routines suffocate the spirit of curiosity. They crave conversations that explore ideas, personal dreams, and new perspectives. They thrive with partners who challenge their thinking in gentle but stimulating ways. A marriage with an INFJ becomes stagnant only when the emotional and intellectual atmosphere stops evolving. Learning together, exploring new ideas, supporting each other's passions. These are the things that keep an INFJ's heart invested and fulfilled. Another essential truth is that INFJs express love differently from most people. Their love language is often subtle and thoughtful. Instead of loud expressions, they show love by remembering small details about you, anticipating your needs, supporting your goals, encouraging your growth, creating emotionally safe moments, and giving you their full presence. They may not always be expressive in the traditional way, but the depth of their love is unmatched. Understanding their quiet gestures is key to truly appreciating how deeply they care. You need to understand that INFJs are constantly evolving. Their spirit, mind, and emotional self are always growing, always seeking deeper meaning, always transforming. They're not the type of partner who remains emotionally or spiritually stagnant. This evolution is not a threat to the relationship. It is one of the greatest gifts they bring. A spouse who grows with them, who values personal transformation, and who embraces the unfolding journey will create a marriage that becomes richer with each passing season. Loving an INFJ means accepting their intensity, their sensitivity, their need for solitude, their loyalty, their dreams, and their emotional complexity. It means understanding that beneath their calmness is a fiercely passionate heart and a mind constantly weaving meaning from everything they experience. It means recognizing that their rare personality is both a gift and a responsibility. If you honor it, cherish it, nurture it, and meet them at their depth, you will experience a marriage unlike anything you've ever imagined. One built on emotional truth, spiritual connection, profound loyalty, and love that evolves with time.